We have the problem. Given the graph of a trig function, write the equation using sine and one using cosine. First, let's recall that our general equation is y equals a sine b times the quantity of x minus c plus d. So we're looking at here, let's find a first. Actually we're going to find the amplitude first, and then we'll determine later if it's going to be positive or negative. A will be the max, and the max here is at 2, minus the min. The min's down here at -7, all over 2, so that gives us 9/2. At the same time, we could also find the d value. Remember, d is our vertical shift, and that's going to be the midpoint of the high and the low values. It's that middle line, and so it's going to be 2 plus -7 divided by 2, and that will give us -5/2. So if we draw a line at -5/2 here, -2.5, that will be our center line, our midline. That is like the x-axis was before. So for sine, we want it to start at the midline, and cosine, we want it to start at a high or a low value. In order to find b, we need to determine what's the period. Well, this looks like it's at -1/2, and this one is at 5.5. So the period would be 5.5 minus -1/2, or 6. We know that b periods in 2 pi, so b will be 2 pi over 6, or pi over 3. Now we need to determine whether or not, for the c value, if we're dealing with sine or cosine. And since we're dealing with both of them, let's start with sine. What is our c value if we're going to start with sine? Well, c starts in the middle. That would be right here at the midline. That value is 1. So we can write our equation right now and say y equals 9/2 sine b is our pi over 3 times the quantity of x minus 1. This is also, remember that when we're affecting the x values, if we plug it, what number would we plug in here to give us 0? We would plug in 1, so we did that right, and that means we're shifting right 1 unit. Plus our d value, in this case d is negative, so it's -5/2. Now let's do it for a cosine graph. Cosine starts either at the high or the low. The easiest one is to say, the simplest version I should say, is when we're going to be at the high value. So here's a high value. What is that x value? That x value is 2.5. So we could say cosine, if c is 2.5 or 2.5, we could then say, and since I wrote this as a decimal, I'm going to write the whole thing with the 9/2 as a decimal as well. So I could say 4.5 cosine pi over 3 times x minus 2.5 minus 2.5. Now when we're looking at that, let's check to make sure we agree. Cosine starts at the high value and then goes down. Yes, this one does, so that means our a value is positive. Let's do another cosine value. What if we had cosine started at the low value? Let's say this one right here. We could say c is -1/2. So in this equation, but if c is -1/2, we're starting at the low. That means we're going to have to reflect about our center line, and our a value then must be a negative number. So it was positive 9/2, now it'll be -9/2, and we can graph y equals negative 9/2 times cosine of pi over 3 times the quantity of x plus 1/2, and then we have minus 5/2. And as we've talked about before, you can have multiple different equations. We have 3 here. We could say, just to go over this, we could say, let's say I wanted to start right here. Well, that would be a positive value, but then the a, and this is sine because it's starting at the midline, the a would then be negative because it's going down first instead of up. So that would be another possibility, y equals negative 9/2 sine pi over 3 times the quantity of x minus 4, and then close the parenthesis there, and then minus 5/2. And that's how you write the equations of sine and cosine functions.